So in the week 2 lesson, I have this statement for the title for the week 2 lesson. It says, cultural, political, and economic influences shape the what can be said and by whom in intercultural contexts. And this gets to everything that Sorrells is talking about in chapter 2 of your textbook. This notion that all of these historical and cultural and political and economic factors that are at play in the process of globalization. It has been the process of globalization. It's all during modern contemporary times and historical, even ancient times. That these are so very important for us to be able to understand the significance of intercultural communication. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on one specific example of intercultural communication that we can tie to a historical context so you can understand how this actually plays out in contemporary life. So we're going to use the article, Whose Language Is It Anyways? Languages and Tribal Sovereignty by Rebecca Blum Martinez. This comes from the book, The Intercultural Communication Reader. And what Blum Martinez is talking about is something that happened specifically in the Talpa School District in northern New Mexico. Now, the Talpa School District is 85% Hispanic. Now, we say Hispanic. In this context, we're talking about native Spanish speakers, or at least predominant Spanish speakers. In this school district, 8% of the individuals are American Indian, and they're Pueblo Indian is the tribe in that area, and 7% of the students are European Americans. So there's a greater percentage of teachers from the Hispanic community in the state, and the Hispanic community in the state was established somewhere around 3 or 4 centuries ago. Now the Pueblo communities have inhabited that area since 1100, so much longer ago than the Hispanic-speaking individuals, Spanish-speaking individuals that have come into the area. Now, there's a couple of important things to know about. Older Pueblo residents were forced to go to boarding school, so there was this whole period of the American educational system where they really believe that Indians need to be assimilated into the greater American culture, the greater, in a sense, European American culture. And so they sent a lot of Native Americans to these boarding schools. And at the boarding schools, the person who kind of spearheaded the whole boarding school movement, his belief was that you need to kill the Indian to save the man. So they literally tried to beat the Indian out of individuals. So if you did any of the cultural practices of your community, if you talked in your native language, if you did any of those types of things, you were severely punished. Now, they realized that that wasn't an appropriate thing to do, so they kind of shut down the whole boarding school movement. And so middle-aged and younger people went to Talpa High School over time. But even though they weren't beating these individuals, they did have to leave their language at home. They weren't able to use their language in schools. So we're now going to talk about the Pueblo culture, and we'll do that in the next presentation.